What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode, the last episode of these good vibrations known as the late afternoon show. Let's drop that beat. Yes. Hey. On the same frequency. I've had so much fun. We're about to jam out today. It's all about the good vibrations. Let's go. Hey. Let us know where you're joining us from. On LinkedIn, on YouTube. Oh, let me make sure that my elbows are kosher. I'm just throwing all these ashy elbows at y'all. Sorry. Hey. I found the original Mr. Work Meaningful. And we talking today. Let's go. Let us know where you're joining us from. Name, city, state, country. I'm buzzing like guitars and rock and roll. Because you give me those good. Vibrations. Hey. Baby, you and me on the same frequency. Once you're in, tag somebody in the chat. Let them know that Tim is live with Justin on the series finale of the late afternoon show. Vibrations. All right, we're about getting ready to start the show. Just want to let you know, you got a few more minutes. No, not minutes. Seconds. Oh my God. I need to get some water. Now in the court, bouncing it back and forth, knocking out shots from the 3-point line. All right, guys. We are about to dive in today. Caught me out of nowhere. I must have met you because you give me those. You give me those good old vibrations. Baby, you and me on the same frequency. Hey. This must be a sign. I got to make you know. I'm gonna cut y'all off right there. I'm not even gonna fade it out. I'm about to cut it off right there so we can jump right into this. What's up, everybody? I am so happy to see everybody here on another Tuesday afternoon. Well, it's afternoon for me. It's nighttime for some people on the other side of the country, but we appreciate you being here. We have had an amazing run on the late afternoon show. Started, October of 2020, and here we are in the spring of 2022. Talked to over 50 guests, learning about their meaningful work journeys, learning about their experiences, their perspectives, and how we can apply it to what we do, because we do meaningful work. I do meaningful work. You do meaningful work. And I just wanted to make that real for everybody. And so it was so fortuitous as I was putting together the guests for season 5 and just kind of going through what are folks talking about? How are folks feeling about this subject? I just came across this guy. I was like, what kind of energy is this? What kind of energy is this? You will know when my Nigerian accent comes out, that's how you know it's genuine. I said, what kind of energy, Mr. Work Meaningful? Is this me? He's like, no, that's not me. This dude's chest is too big. This dude's biceps are way bigger than mine. That's not me. That's Mr. Justin Jones, guys. Mr. Justin, Mr. Work Meaningful, author, speaker, just an amazing facilitator of diversity and meaningfulness and engagement. And so I am so excited that I was able to find him. You have already started fire. Hey. For anybody that doesn't know the what's the word? It's not conflict. Anyhow, the Nigerian jollof rice, which is this red, spicy, just savory rice. Kind of if you thought about Mexican rice, Niger jollof rice, and Ghana has jollof rice as well. We'll talk about that. I'm done. We're gonna bring him on, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to bring on our guest today. None other than the great. Where's my audience? Where's my audience? Here you go. Here we go, Mr. Justin. Yes. Yes, there he is. Yes, yes, yes. Quiet down. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. All right, quiet down, guys. Settle down. Settle down. Settle down. All right, settle down. Settle down. Oh. My guy, that was perfect. That was like the whole Ellen dancing in theme, like all that whole vibe was there. How are you doing, my brother?
I am loving the journey. How you feeling, fam?
I am well. I am well. It is sunny out here in California. It's starting to feel like springish, summerish. What's the weather out like where you're at? You're in North Carolina, ain't it?
Well, I think somebody told me it never rains in Southern California, and they tell me it never rains. No, yeah. So I'm in the
serenaded today. Let's go.
I'm in the mountains of North Carolina, and it's actually pretty good. Did a little bit of hiking earlier today, and nice. mountains are one of my happy places. So, nice. Yeah, it feels good. It's not like 70s, but it was warm. Put on a nice little hiking jacket and get out there.
That's what's up. Now you're in the mountains now. Is that where you normally stay? Are you out there for something, or what are you doing in the mountains?
Yeah. So I'm out here for a think week. I love the mountains. I live in Charlotte normally, and but I get to the mountains as often as I can. I come out here for skiing. I come out here for hiking. Nice. I come out here for thinking. It's one of those places for me that it just brings me alive. You know, it's like "Hive to the hills of sound and music," right? And so that's how I just come alive. And
the hills are alive with the sound of music. Didn't you just climb a mountain? Mountain recently?
Yeah, so Grandfather Mountain I did today. No, I'm joking. I know that's not what you're talking about. That was the most recent mountain I climbed. Yeah. But no, I did Mount Kilimanjaro in late July, early August. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. Definitely the hardest thing I've ever done. Thankful to do it. And that's just one of the things that I keep life and make life meaningful for myself is I challenge myself as best as possible to do an international trek or a major trek once a year. So this year is Machu Picchu. We'll be going in June. So I'm excited to do that in Peru.
Dude, and I mean, I feel so connected with you, man. We're bald, we're beautiful. We both got energetic kids. Like we're out here talking about work and meaningful, but I was really inspired. I mean, you almost brought me to tears watching you come to tears when you got to the top of the mountain. And you sent the message to your kid. Why was that so emotional for you? Why was that so meaningful? You talked to us a little bit about what was going on.
Yeah, so my kids were a big my why, right? For climbing. Like I want them to see their dad doing challenging stuff, to overcoming obstacles and not treating life easy. So they were my motivation, they were my why, and just to have gotten to the top, I wanted to give them a message and let them know that there are many times when I wanted to give up that I thought about them and like just the message that was sent to them of what giving up looks like. And, and so like part of my reason for making it to the top was them. And so that's why I broke down in tears. It's a emotional experience no matter what when you get to the top, period. But then just thinking about my kids, which is the best part of my life, just made it even more emotional for me. So
dude, I love that. I mean, I know folks talk about the importance of doing the hard things. Like life is not a piece of cake. Like there's going to be challenges. Like we get bombarded with that message all the time. And I think at a point, folks start to get desensitized, right? It's like, I know life is hard. Life is hard. Blah, 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 blah. But when you model it, right? I think what you did was you modeled it. You showed them, like, I am intentionally going to do this hard thing, not just taking life as like, I am intentionally going to do this hard thing to show that you can overcome and to show that, you know, your greatest triumph is on the other side of fear and all those things. And so the modeling that you did was probably what hit me the most, separate from the idea of hard things are hard and you got to get through them, but like, no, I am going to do this to show, and you made it through. It's just amazing, dude. Like I look up to that. I'm so inspired by that. I got to figure out what I'm gonna do. It's like, man, I just started hiking. I almost died like last week. My family and I, we went out to Reno. So we were like in the mountains over there, and like, I don't know, it was the altitude. Like, I just started, I'm like, like, I'm tasting blood in my mouth. It's like, it's so like, but we made it to the top. Like, we were hiking, we got the snow, we got a waterfall, and I was coming back and I felt so energized. Like, I was like, what if I had stopped? Like, if I had stopped back there on the way up, I would never be able to experience this. So, yo, I resonate with that, man.
100%. And what I haven't posted yet that I still need to, because I've been slow to posting just because I had a very kind of spiritual experience on the mountain that I haven't shared a lot of that with my network. Is there were, especially when I got close to the top, I could see the summit. All right. Altitude was hitting me in different ways. I thought about giving up several times. And there's 2 times where I was just walking. So if you see the video of me with my guide is taking, it looks like I'm drunk on the mountain, because that's how altitude has impacted me. So I'm walking slow, I'm stumbling, and it's 2 times where I just simply I'm walking and I just fall over. Twice, right? Where it just looks like, what's going on, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this guy's drunk, right? But it's how the altitude hit me and impacted me, but it's just like, I got to keep going. And so like, that's like our journey in life, to be honest. It's like, there are moments where we just fall. And, you know, people may look at like, what in the world, especially for those from the outside that don't understand the altitude of your situation. And, you know, it's easy to comment.
Your situation. Wow.
Yeah. It's easy to comment when you're on the ground versus up there with you. So, but that's, for all of us, that's a challenge in our lives of just identifying ways. You'll see me smiling when I'm falling. Like, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get back up in a second. Just give me a second, yo. I'm gonna get back up. I probably had Niger jollof rice down there.
Oh,
that's why I'm so sick. But I'm gonna get back up, and I'm gonna get to the summit of Ghana jollof. Yeah,
that's what was pushing you up. It's like, let me get away from this Niger jollof. Let me go and eat this Ghana jollof that's waiting for me. Yeah, I'm serious. This guy, man, yo, I love that. That's a whole sermon right there. I would need an organ soundtrack, like people might think you're drunk, but they don't know the altitude of your situation. You might fall over, but you get back up. Like, dude, you need to. I'm gonna come to the Church of Jones-Fosu. Like, don't worry, man. That's a whole message, yo. We haven't even got to the thing yet. Like, I normally ask my guests at the top of the show, what are you famous for, man? Like, what do folks know you for? Your small circles, your large circles. How would you answer that, man?
Yeah, I am known for the daddy-daughter dance video. That's what I'm famous for. So me and my daughter, we won our first daddy-daughter dance competition at her school. And we had a lot of fun, right?
How old was she?
Like, at that time, she was 7. Yeah, she was 7. And you know, we came out in outfits, we did the splits, put her on my shoulders, like we're killing it. We're getting ready for this upcoming one this year. So we have like costume changes and all that kind of stuff. I treat this thing for real.
This is not a joke. This is not.
Yeah, it's not a joke.
It's not cute anymore. Like, this is work.
No. I'm like, we coming out like masks on, like we like. They already came like, wait a minute, like he's wearing different clothes for the daddy-daughter dance at the competition. Like, what's going on? Like,
y'all thought this. No, we're winning this thing. Let's go.
This was a game. And so, but that's what I think I'm famous for, because that went viral. Viral things happen unexpectedly. Yeah. Like, I posted that, and then like there's hundreds of thousands of views to millions. Nice. To people like tagging their significant other, like, would you do this with our child, like that kind of thing. And so that was fun. That's what I'm famous for. But like the most memorable part of that experience for me was the video I didn't show or didn't post afterwards. And this video where I was capturing my daughter right after it got done, and her friends were coming up to her. She was having a Beyonce moment. They're going, Lydia said, thank you, right? And I was like, Lydia, like, what was your favorite part of the dance? Mm-hmm. And she was like, Dad, when you lifted me up. And there was a part in the dance where I lifted her from my shoulders, but what she didn't know symbolically, that would be my why for the rest of her life. To constantly ask, how am I lifting her up, or what ways am I able to lift her up symbolically? And like that for me is just the big piece. So that was a micro form of what I'm famous for. The macro is just a lover of my kids and giving them experiences. And so whether that's taking them to Broadway in New York to see The Lion King, go to the Slime Museum, taking them to Ghana, taking them to Hornets games, it's just asking in what ways am I able to provide great experiences for my kids. That's what I'm probably the most famous for.
I love that. And dude, and I love how you lead with that, right? Like your profile, anybody that goes and checks him out, like his thing says father of 2 energetic kids. Like that's the first thing that you see. And the fact that, and that just talks about priority, right? When you don't have to articulate it too much and folks don't have to guess, like they know at the top of the day and at the end of the day, Justin is about family, and that family means lifting. I mean, you just said, supporting, lifting them up, providing experiences, serving them. And I think that then informs everything now that you do professionally, diversity, speaking, meaningful work, consulting and all that stuff. Knowing that you are here to support and serve and uplift and all these things, it starts there. I mean, I love that. I mean, I absolutely love that. How old are your kids now?
Peter's 6. He's about to turn 7 in a couple of weeks, and then Lydia's 10.
Nice, Lydia. I love that. That's my wife's name. So
that's dope. Okay.
Yeah. Shout out to Lydia. Yeah. For the Lydias out there, let's go.
Yes. Sounds good radio.
Yeah.
For the Lydias out there.
What so work meaningful, right? Mm-hmm. That's the name that I found you by. That's what a lot of folks know. That's the organization that you are the leader of. What's the origin story there of Work Meaningful? Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So I started my company 15 years ago, March 24th, 2007. And
literally. That's the anniversary you were talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so which I still didn't post about because
I was looking for it. I was
like, I'm trying, man. I guess it's hard for me to go. Yeah. I started the company initially as like it was JNS Solutions, and it became JS Training Solutions. Then it became morphed into Justin Inspires, and then I started probably around 2013-ish. I started asking deeper questions. Like I want to build something beyond me. And so I wanted Justin Inspires wasn't, like I was like, would Apple hire Justin Inspires? No. Like that sounds nice, but like Justin's for real? Like no, they wouldn't.
Yeah.
That sounds really nice.
Yeah.
And so I started the journey of identifying what I focus on. Like, what is the thing that is significant to me? What's been my research stream? What's been that thing that I've really just kind of leaned into? And for me, I found it took about 3 years to uncover, but it was meaningful work. Meaningful work, such workplace engagement, because what I realized is that I normally focused in on, like, everybody talked about employee engagement, blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
how to engage employees. But my statement was always, you can't engage an employee who doesn't want to be engaged. And it's like you can create whatever the best program, the best situation.
Yeah.
There's some of the best companies in the world, the top companies to work for, and there's disengaged employees even at those top companies.
Yep.
And so I normally focused in on that 50%. I always called it a partnership. Like, it's the 50-50 partnership of engagement. Like, you have to create the best culture where people can be engaged.
Yeah.
But you also have to empower your employees and your team members to engage themselves.
Yeah.
And so I often focused on just engaging themselves. And so I realized, like, that whole research stream was about meaningful work. And so really I started making this statement in my Your Why Matters Now presentation. So I did a book called Your Why Matters Now, and I was presenting on it. And so it's one of my top presentations.
Yeah.
And I added this slide to it at some point. I don't know when it was, but I added this slide that says it's not about finding meaning in your work. It's about bringing meaning to your work. And I would always kind of hear this in the audience, right? And I was like, there's something there, right?
Yeah.
And so that's really kind of the origin of once I started identifying what am I talking about. I wasn't talking about productivity. I wasn't talking about, to some degree, performance or even just employee engagement. It really was around helping people to work meaningfully, but also just that work is meaningful, but that you can also choose work to be meaningful, right? Why? That's why it's work, period, meaningful, period.
Yeah.
And so
work,
like that became
period, meaningful. Nice. Yeah.
Yes. You can work meaningful, and work is meaningful.
Yeah.
And that became kind of the origin. And I realized, like, all the stuff that I talk about falls under that, whether it was those two research streams of workplace engagement or diversity and inclusion. And so that's why work meaningful was significant to start and to build up under.
Dude, mine is like the other way, where I started. What's up, Megan? Megan is joining us from Tennessee. What's up, Memphis in the house?
Multitasker Megan.
Oh man, Megan is out here doing the job. I'm in the shed out here, and these bugs are trying to be part of the show. But I started, so last year, top of 2020, not last year, but a couple years ago, 2020. Like, I'm notorious for always being one hustle or the other, just one little gig, one little like trying to get things going. And so I had a new job, new location, moved up to Sacramento from LA, and I was like, you know what? I need to figure out where I'm focused. Like, I have a full-time job, but I'm always like jumping around to a bunch of different things. Like, what's meaningful for me? And so that was the journey of discovering what was meaningful for me. And I just took on the moniker of Mr. Meaningful Work, because from an accountability standpoint, if folks saw Mr. Meaningful Work, it's like, oh, what's that? And I would have to provide an answer of what was meaningful. So that journey of discovering what is meaningful for myself, and then asking a bunch of people what they thought meaningful work was, and this was kind of how it came out of. But now it has come from that high definition of what is meaningful work, and figuring out, the definitions, the applications, and now seeing that there is an opportunity to plug that into engagement. So like coming from like that definition, plugging it into taking these themes. So they're like 3 or 4 themes that we picked up, and plugging it to how leaders can create environments of meaningful, that where folks can find meaning in the work that they're doing, and keep their associates or keep their employees. So it all kind of comes in and gels together, because it's all part of the same, part of the same work. But the thing I love about you, dude, is that you bring your whole self, man. Like, you bring your whole self, from the energy, from the dancing, from the clothing, from the the interactions. Was that an intentional thing? Like, I am doing this, or is this like something that you do? Like, talk to us a little bit about, because I think that's like the brand. Like, when people see Justin, like, they know it's about to be high energy. There's about to be some drumming, dancing, singing, but they're going to get some nuggets. Talk to us a little bit about that energy that you bring, man.
Yeah. So, I mean, it stemmed from kind of my master's level research. So, my master's was in human resource development, and part of our journey was adult learning. And one of the things that they always talked about in adult learning is that adults remember more when they're having a good time doing it. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
I was always challenged. Like even when I first started speaking, people told me I either had to be the academic, the stoic that would give
Yeah.
information and tell
Yeah.
people 75% of people struggle with blah 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 blah. Or I would be like, you can do it, you can do it, you go, you can do it, you it's like you either one or the other, right? And I'm just like 75% of people struggle with this, and you can go, you can do it, and this is how you do it, right? And so like I realized that one of my friends, Stan Phelps, he called it the tyranny of or. Is that you either had to be this or that. And I was actually told that by an agency I joined. He was like, you can either be this person, the content person, or you can be the hype person, right?
Yeah.
And I was just like, well, I'm not just the content person, but I also know I'm not just a hype person.
Yeah.
I have substance, and I'm going to challenge that notion.
Yeah.
And I said, like, hey, like I want to give people high research-based content in ways that they can remember. Because we know the research that people in presentations only remember 10 to 15% of what's shared. And I was like, I want to create those memory impressions where dopamine and endorphins are swimming, and they remember that moment or that story or that situation that they can then connect it back to, oh, but he said X, I can do this. And so that for me became just a natural outpouring of what I wanted to give to people. So that's the first piece. And then the second piece is that, you'll catch me like I'm always going to have something on, whether socks or watch or clothes that represent my heritage as a Ghanaian American. And that for me, I asked the question of what, I believe in abundance, not deficit, right? And so a lot of people can talk about it, but what's a unique way I can talk about it that's unique to Justin? And that's like so tying in my heritage and rocking, the African themed blazers, and using the djembe drum as a metaphor to talk about it's the meaning we put into the drum that impacts what people hear and see it. It's not the drum itself. And so like those were some of the things that I started asking, what makes me unique? And how can I help use my uniqueness to shape the message? And so that's what you get. That's why you'll see me with the African blazer or with the drum or my diversity is dope stuff or like whatever that may be, because it's all about kind of using my, as Dan Sullivan calls it, your unique ability to impact people in positive ways. And so that's where the brand came out of, was just asking the question and really wrestling with it for months. Of like, yes, if somebody else gave this exact same content, what would be different about me doing it?
Yes, dude. You just embodied what I mean. It took me talking to 50 or so guests and reflecting on my own personal journey, and I put together this framework. It's kind of it's kind of changing now, but it used to be the 4 P's of meaningful work. There's now an iteration of it that's called impact, IMPACT. But the first P of the 4 P's is permission. The I in impact is I, like it starts with me. That you have the permission to, like, meaningful work starts with giving yourself permission to be who you are. And if you don't know who you are, your first job is to find out, right? You do personal investigations. You ask folks like, what are my strengths? What are my values? And Megan is a phenomenal strengths coach, and certified by Gallup. So figuring out your strengths, your values, what activates you, what energizes you, and giving yourself the permission to bring that person to what you're doing, right? Like you mentioned, right? You bring meaning to work. And so the fact that you embody that, like you are talking about it, but you're also living, again, modeling it. Like I am bringing my high energy, high content, high heritage, like all of these things. And I'm showing that you can be your authentic self and be successful and make connections and follow your dreams and all these different things. And it's not something that limits you, right? You talk about the abundance mindset versus, limited mindset. Like, yeah, you can be yourself and be abundant. It's not a limiting factor to your success. So I absolutely love, that work, that you're doing. Do you ever run into challenges where it's like, maybe like, do you ever like doubt or second guess or like,
all the time?
Yeah, even you
all the time.
What?
Yeah, I mean, like if we're not doubting, like that means we're not trying hard enough. Like it's real. Like either one of two things is happening. Either people are faking or they're not trying hard enough. Because like even for those who are able to watch the Kanye West docuseries, you even saw earlier on like him going hard and having him have the confidence, but you can see in his eyes, he was like, yo, is this gonna work? Like there was doubt. There was like you just sometimes you're doing something so big that you're wondering, is anybody gonna believe in what I believe in? Like you may believe it, but you may doubt that other people believe in it. And so like there's doubt. And that's why I talk about and when I talk about understanding or connecting to your why or how to have a high why, there's 3 ways to do that. That, you have to have a clarity of your why, a connection to your why, and a consistency with your why. And so kind of the part that helps me deal with the doubt is the consistency. It's what I call why stories and why symbols. And why stories are those moments where kind of your track record, where what you've done has made an impact. So I kind of go back to the emails that people send me after presentations or workshops or working with them. I go back and replay the conversations I've had with people or look at pictures. And then the symbols for me, the mountains, one of those why symbols for me that just talks about overcoming obstacles, that sometimes the journey and the switchbacks are going to be tough, but it's always going to be worth it. At the end when you get that beautiful view, even in Reno. And so like even that's why I mean it's no Colorado, but
I was in Colorado. I never hiked. I used to live in Denver and I never hiked in Colorado. Like it was such a, and I was talking to my guy about it. Like, what's the point? Like, how do you live in the Rocky Mountains? And so I have to come to California and go to Nevada to start hiking.
But now you can go back and visit Colorado and have a great appreciation.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah, but that for me is those why stories and why symbols are the ways that I help engage my doubt. If I don't have doubt, that says to me, to Justin, that I'm not thinking big enough. That I haven't challenged myself outside of my comfort zone. Because if you're not having any doubt, then you may not be thinking big enough.
So doubt is okay. Doubt is okay. If doubt is there, it shows that you're probably thinking it's the goal is probably scary enough. It's big enough. It's audacious. But you can still do it. It shouldn't be limiting to stop you from doing that. But I want to talk a little bit about, we talked a little bit about the engagement piece when you were kind of coming in, employee engagement, and now you are doing a lot of work in diversity. You have the book out. I had it pulled up here. The Inclusion Mindset, How to Cultivate Diversity in Your Everyday Life. I'm listening to myself over here. I was like, this guy sounds good. But before we get into the book, diversity has become a big topic, right? Like the last couple of years, it's become this very in your face, like, everybody's talking about it. Everybody wants to make sure that they have plans, they have statements, they have committees, they have, positions and all these different things. in your time working on this and in your research, what would you say if you were to pick one thing that folks get wrong about diversity? What would you say that is?
Well, before I answer that, I wanted to, which is close. I love that you saw that, but it's the inclusive mindset.
What
Is the
did I
name of the
say?
book, inclusion.
The
I think
inclusive,
both. Yes,
the
both
inclusive
work for
mindset.
me, but it's the
Yeah.
inclusive mindset. And a small correction as well is like you mentioned it's something that that you've been really focused on now, and the correction for a lot of people is that like I've been doing this work for about over a decade,
Mm,
and been DNI for 20 years. But what
mm,
happened is I didn't want to be known as a black guy who did diversity and inclusion work. So I didn't
mm,
publicize it. So I was doing work
mm.
with all these companies from Mercedes to Toyota,
Yeah.
and they would only hear about it from word of mouth, right? Because it
Mm.
really wasn't publicized because I didn't want to be known as that. I didn't want to
Yeah.
be pigeonholed into this
Pigeonholed. Yeah.
diversity. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I did a lot of my leadership, meaningful work stuff. And that's
Yeah.
the thing that I really emphasized. And it
Yeah.
wasn't until May 25th, 2020, which George Floyd,
Yeah.
and which is also May 25th is my birthday,
Oh, wow.
that it caused me to quote unquote come out the closet of
Mm.
diversity to share with the world what I was providing for organizations and to provide it in a free form
Yeah.
on what I call the 7 mini episodes of Everyday Diversity. Because I was like, I can't just keep what I've been sharing with organizations just to them. Like I
Yeah.
want to give people these practical
Yeah.
tools, the things that
Yeah.
have been, and so that's the thing. So it felt like for some people, because there's a lot of people who came to the conversation
Yeah.
post George Floyd, and I'm grateful for anyone who has a good
Yeah.
heart for it. I'm not
Yeah.
grateful for ones who are trying to take advantage of the situation.
Mm.
That's not who
Yeah.
I do not appreciate that. Yes,
Opportunistic. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not appreciate that. But for
Yeah.
those who've come to it and felt called to it,
Yeah.
like yes,
Yeah.
we need more people that are doing good work in this space.
Yeah.
And so for me, the number one thing that I think that we've been doing, getting it wrong with, is that to sum it up, we've made it this big initiative,
Mm.
and instead of a value. So initiatives we can start and stop. Values are just a part of who we are.
Mm.
And when we treat diversity and inclusion as a value, whether organizationally or personally, we can grow in that value. From a personal perspective, it's a character. It's a
Mm.
characteristic of who we are. From organizational perspective, it's a value. Like when you have a value, it's just who you are. You
Yeah.
don't have to try to be it. It's just who you are. It's just
Yeah.
right. And so with initiatives, people are being scared. It's how like I treat Barnes and Nobles. Yo, when I go into Barnes and Nobles, I get overwhelmed. Like I get this overwhelming feeling like there's so much I need to know. I'm not Mr. Meaningful Work. I'm not Tim. I don't know everything. I don't know
Yeah.
all my strengths, Megan. Right? Like I don't know what's happening in life. Right? And so like that's what we tend to do and treat it.
Mm.
And so guess what? If I feel it's overwhelming, guess what I'm going to do?
Yeah.
I'm going to go back to my comfort zone. I'm going
Yeah.
to go back to what I know. And I'm
Yeah.
going to stay in the places and things
Mm.
of comfort.
Yeah.
And so that's where I feel like we've gotten it wrong, is that we've made this big initiative. And the last thing I'll say, and again, like we need all these different approaches. My approach is
Yeah.
only but one approach. I used to
Yeah.
be naive and probably prideful to think that my approach is the only approach. But I've also felt like we've tried to we've treated diversity inclusion from a very academic perspective.
Mm.
And so it's almost like academics speaking to academics about diversity and inclusion. And that's not how the everyday person thinks and processes. There's a reason why there's an academia, and there's a reason why there's elementary school and a middle
Right.
school and a
Right.
high school and a college before you get to
Yeah.
the PhD level, right?
Yeah.
And so I've noticed that in the spaces where I was, DNI or DEI or DEIB or all the things that we want to now call it,
Yeah.
was becoming and communicated in a very academic perspective. And it was getting it was impacting people's heads, but it wasn't impacting people's hearts.
Mm.
And that's where I wanted to really hone in on what my mom taught me, of kind of like this heart-based approach to diversity and inclusion, where it's not something that you have to be. It's something that you have to try to do, right? It's someone who you choose to be, and that's the heart-based approach, where a lot of people are gaining a lot of head knowledge, but few people are gaining heart knowledge. And so that's why I really I wrote the book for 3 people.
Yeah.
I wrote the book for those who are new to the conversation, those who were slightly resistant to it, or those who've been jaded by how the conversation has gone. I didn't write it for the hardcore D&I folks. I didn't write it for those who need. You find very few statistics in the books because people aren't changed by statistics. Statistics here, and they're needed. They're necessary. I'm not saying the statistics are necessary, but that's not the catalyst that normally moves people.
Yeah.
The heart is the thing that normally challenges us and moves us.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the things that I love about, I'm sure you're familiar with Emmanuel Acho and Comfortable Conversations with the Black Man, because I think that gets to the heart, right? You're not just talking about it cerebrally, you're seeing the stories, you're seeing the reactions, you're seeing like perspectives that may have been like they've just had these long held beliefs that were then challenged, and you're seeing like folks coming to grips, and it moves. It should, like, that's the goal, like it should move you to actions and behaviors and changes and things like that. So, thanks for calling out the first, like, it's not an initiative, it's a value, right? And you don't want to make it overwhelming, right? Because if it becomes overwhelming, folks are not going to want to do it. Like, folks are just going to go back. It's like, I like to do this. It's like you want to run a marathon and you get to like the first mile, like, nah, I'm good. I'm just gonna
go see on off over here.
We're gonna go this way. You know what I mean? And then just like, connecting it to the heart and action. So I appreciate it. And you answered my question. I was gonna ask you, like, who is this book for? And you just shared. It's folks that are new to it, folks that have been jaded by it, folks that, what was the set? There was like a third one. Folks new, folks jaded, folks
slightly resistant
around that. So dude, I appreciate it. Megan has a question in here. So would you say that an alternative approach is EQ D&I versus IQ D&I?
Yeah. So emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
I agree. Again, I'm not a big label person. I'm all about kind of the message, not the name of it. And so, but yes. So the EQ of D&I is where I would say, again, the IQ D&I is great, right?
Yeah.
But I know a lot of people who know all the acronyms, the terminology, statistics, and they are still very exclusive.
Yeah.
And so, like, you can know all that stuff and still not necessarily be transformed in your heart, which is, it's the sad part, man. Like, I've been to, I've given presentations or workshops, and people have come up to me and was like, Justin, thank you. This is the first time I actually felt included in a diversity and inclusion conversation.
What?
And it's just like, because we've approached it in ways like, and probably you asked me for one, but I gave you 2 already. I'm gonna give you the last one, is that we made diversity and inclusion about those people. Either one of 2 things: either those are the people who really need it, or it's really about those people. I'm not included in that conversation, right? And so it's always about those people versus this person.
Yeah.
And when we look at it from this person, when we ask ourselves, what are ways that I can grow?
Yeah.
How am I a part of this conversation? I mean, we know this from Leadership and Management 101, is that if I don't feel a part of the conversation, or if I don't feel included, I'm less likely to contribute to it. That's why they tell you in goal setting theory to set goals with your people, not for your people.
Yes.
Right. And so it's the same process. We've treated diversity and inclusion as something that people need to get versus experiencing it with them. And so I tell people, I'm on this journey. I'm not perfect. Here are the areas I mess up. I make mistakes. I say the wrong things. I have wrong thoughts. I have all these things that come into play, but I am not content with staying where I am. I am focused on growing where I want to be.
Gotta grow.
And that's the piece, is that people don't see themselves as part of the conversation.
Yeah. Man, I'm going to have so many nuggets to put in my post show notes tomorrow for folks that missed it. It is good stuff, man. Let me ask you this question before we round out our time today. How would you define meaningful work?
Yeah. So meaningful work is any work that you choose to be meaningful.
Simple. Thank you. We had a good show.
Yeah. I mean, and I know you're not supposed to use the definition.
The definition.
The definition. I know that, but any work that you choose to be worthy of effort, right? Like that for me, right? And the important part of that is choose.
I was just about to say that the key word is that you have a choice.
Yeah, you have a choice. And this was the thing. Like this whole concept really came. I was speaking for this conference. I've spoken for several years out in actually Colorado. It was for the Daniels Fund. It was like this high school thing where they gave scholarships to those students in that area. It was in Denver. Yeah, I came to Denver, spoke at the University of Denver every year. Yeah, and I was on stage once and I said something, and this is where the catalyst from it came. I was like, "Have you ever? Has anybody ever told you to find your passion?" And everybody's like, "Yeah." And they were like, "Hey," like, "Yeah, we've been telling everybody to find your passion, find your passion." But I said, unintentionally, we haven't told people to be passionate where they currently are. And so everybody's waiting to give their best and maximal effort to that place where they find that magical unicorn, as I call it, where I can now be passionate. Yeah. I'm finding my passion.
I found that thing.
But, that thing. But where we are, we're not going to give our all because we're saving our all for that thing.
Saving our all for that thing.
It's almost like we're singing that Whitney Houston song. 'Cause I'm saving all my work for you. And that's kind of like what we're doing. And I'm seeing it over and over again that people are struggling, especially with social media now. They're seeing some of their friends that may have the quote unquote perfect job. And so I struggled with that. I was in bad situations. And so I was blaming everything on outside forces. Bad management, bad leadership, bad situation, wasn't appreciated, wasn't valued. And it was so easy to blame everything on things externally.
Yeah.
That it wasn't until I asked myself two questions, Justin, what do I want to get out of this experience? And who is the only person that I can control? And when I asked myself those two questions, I then started saying, no matter what the situation was, that I could show up in meaningful ways and that I could bring meaning with me. Now, I didn't know that there was a whole research stream called job crafting. That was the seminal research in 2001 by Krasowski and Sutton. I may be saying her last name wrong. But just that we can craft meaning. And there's so many great articles on meaningful work in meaningless places and a lot of really great things that people choose to bring and show meaning where they choose to bring it, right? And that it's up to them. And that's the key distinction. No matter what's happening around you, we can choose to do it. So that's why when I say, how do I define meaning work? It's work that we choose to be meaningful, or work that we choose to be seen as valuable, worth it, and stuff that we choose to give effort to is what really meaningful work is.
I love that. I mean, the idea of choice gives power, right? When somebody knows that they have a choice, it gives them that power, it gives them that authority, it gives them that, again, that permission to not be a victim, just to be a recipient of what life is giving at them, but to be the director of it. So dude, I appreciate that. What's exciting coming up for you, man? We're gonna wrap it up here today. What are you looking forward to? What are you looking forward to next quarter, next year? What's big on your excitement list?
So on a professional level, I'm most excited that my TED Talk is coming out.
Congratulations, man.
Congratulations. Yeah, so dude. It's on, don't take the exit on people. And so I'm super, super pumped. about that coming out in the next month and a half or so.
Nice.
And on a personal note, we have our next Daddy Daughter dance coming up in May.
Let's go.
And so we're already planning costume changes. And,
let's go.
You know, we're getting ready for, we're probably doing Michael Jackson mashup.
Let's go.
And so we've been like brainstorming different things that we want to do. And so like it's just that's, you know, when I started off asking, like, when I asked Lydia what was your favorite part of the dance, and she was like, when you lifted me up. What I didn't say was my favorite part of the dance was not the splits, not the applause, not all that kind of stuff. My favorite part of the dance was actually practice. It was all the stuff leading up to the dance that was the most meaningful for me. And so I'm looking forward to those moments with my daughter again, to practicing, to preparing, to brainstorming together, because those are the experiences that will last a lifetime.
Justin, you got me out here. Like, I'm just thinking, like, let me go and find my daughters now. It's like, oh yeah, let's dance. Oh yeah, let's practice. Let me lift you off. Let me, like, oh, I love the intentionality there. And guys, if you have any questions, where can folks find you? Where is the best way to get in touch with you, support what the work that you're doing? What can our audience do to do that with you?
Yeah, so workmeaningful.com is the website. They can reach me at justin@workmeaningful.com, or just connect with me on LinkedIn. Really, like, that's the great place. You know,
where do they find is your book online? Is it
the Inclusive Mindset on Amazon. Yeah. It's go to Amazon, and you'll find it in Kindle or paperback. It's coming out in hardcover, and will be an audiobook within the next 3 months. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, guys, that is our show with Justin today. I just want to give a huge shout out to everyone that has been with us throughout this meaningful work journey. For me, it was a discovery journey, like really figuring out, what is this idea of meaningful work? How do I make it real? How do I make it practical? How do I make it applicable? And you guys have done that for me with the varying definitions, the different experiences and perspectives on that. And we're now taking that, and we're going to be launching something new here in the next few weeks, called Retain, RETAIN, Retain. And just talking about different perspectives on how folks can keep their people. What are the factors that go into keeping your folks engaged and retained within the organization? So really looking forward to that. It's going to be kind of a spinoff, another Mr. Meaningful Work podcast or event. So check us out when that comes through. But for all of the seasons, season 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're going to have all of that loaded up here pretty soon on YouTube, on MrMeaningfulWork.com, Spotify, the Apple podcast. So we'll make an announcement of when that's coming out. Yeah, Megan, last one. This is Mr. Meaningful Work and Mr. Work Meaningful is wrapping up the late afternoon show. And so before we go, we're going to do a little, I know you got to head out and start thinking and planning and getting stuff going for your Think Week, but we are going to vibe out and party out. Where is my Oh yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. This has been the late afternoon show with Tim, Mr. Meaningful Work. We'll see you guys next time. Hey. Diversity is dope. I do meaningful work. Hey. We love you guys. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time.